What's up everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about my favorite forbidden romances. I have 8 books to talk about today, and so let's just go ahead and get right into my favorites. Okay, so I am pretty particular with my romances in general, and I actually did a reading forbidden romances vlog just a couple days ago. I guess I finished it, and so you can check that out. But I've also found out that I thought I liked like the general forbidden romance trope, but it actually isn't true. I do like specific forbidden romances. I think I have figured out that I don't really like teacher-student or teacher romances in general, and the forbidden romances that I usually like the most are age gap romances. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my Goodreads so that way I can tell you guys my favorite forbidden romances. We're gonna go ahead and start with one that is actually kind of a thriller, like it's mostly a thriller, but there is a forbidden romance aspect in it, and this is All the Beautiful Lies by Peter Swanson. This book is an age gap romance, but like I said, it's thrown into a thriller story. So if you like thrillers, but you're not really sure if you like forbidden romances, or you are kind of dabbling in like reading romances, then this would be a perfect one for you to start out with. This has a couple different forbidden romances in it. This follows a young son and a stepmom type of relationship, but what also is really cool is that the stepmom married like the son's father is pretty old, so it's like, I don't know, it's almost like a triangle effect. It's like the stepmom is young, and that forbidden romance kind of with the old dad guy and then the young son, those are all forbidden, but then also you get to hear from her perspective of being younger and a forbidden romance that happened when she was also younger. So there's a lot of different like age gap romances in this one, and so I thought that that was really intriguing, especially because it's almost like generational, like a generational story, if that makes sense. So I did really like this because of the forbidden romance aspect. I feel like that really made this thriller something interesting and different from other thrillers out there. The next romance we're going to talk about is On the Island by Tracy Garbus Graves. I really like this book because this is again an age gap romance. This is about a younger boy. He is a student. Well, I guess I said I didn't like teachers, but it's a tutor and a student. So the tutor is, I think, in her early 20s, and the boy is, I think, only maybe like 16 when the story first starts, and they are flying to go on this family vacation, but they were flying separate from the parents. The plane that they are on crashes onto this like island, and then we get to read about how they are stuck on this island. Like it literally is, there's nobody else on this island, and they have to survive there for, I think it's a couple years. So by the time anything really happens, I think he is 18 and able to consent to it, so it doesn't have any weird like underage consent type of things in it. But I also feel like it does feel, okay, there are definitely parts where it's not realistic, but you know, you'll figure that out if you read it. But the actual like age of consent and romance, I feel like, is pretty realistic, because you know, you can only imagine what it would be like stuck on an island with just one other person for years. Like you are going to kind of have a relationship with that person, and emotions are going to come up. So I did really enjoy this book. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. I thought it was a great read. Next up, we're gonna talk about Cruel Beautiful World. This is by Carolyn Leavitt, and I really love this book. This actually has like a 70s feel to it. It does happen in the 70s, and it kind of has a cult feel to it because it talks about like Marilyn Manson, and I actually have a whole reading vlog about reading cult books, and this one is in it. So if you want to check that out, you can check that out here and kind of hear more of my thoughts about it. But I really love this book. I gave it 5 stars. It has a couple different relationships in it, but only one of them is a forbidden romance, and it is gosh, why did I say at the beginning of this video that I didn't like teacher student? It's about a teacher and a young student, and they run away together. She's only 16. I'm not sure like how old he is, but they run away together, and like she kind of figures out that that isn't exactly what she wanted. Like she thought that that's what she wanted, but you know, relationships aren't all they've cracked up to be. But you also hear from like her adoptive mom, and like that was a really cool story in my opinion, like hearing about her adoptive mom. And there's also another sister that this story kind of follows, but this is kind of it's a bunch of genres kind of mixed into one. So if you like historical fiction, if you like romance, it's very thrilling. So if you like thrillers, like you could definitely read this book, and it fits into probably a lot of people's tastes. Okay, the next two books we're gonna talk about are kind of forbidden romances in the fact that these are not normal relationships. These are kind of bad relationships. So we're gonna go back to other relationships, but for now, I have Gather the Daughters, and I also have the Roanoke Girls. So if you've read these, you kind of already know what I'm going to talk about, but these are not forbidden romances as in, or maybe I should call these forbidden relationships. So Gather the Daughters is a heavy cult book about this like kind of island or community of people that kind of interbreed with each other, and they tell their children that like the rest of the world is kind of poisoned. Think The Village movie, like by M. Night Shyamalan, however you say his name. But that's like what Gather the Daughters reminded me of. I rated it 4 stars because it was a very like deep and heavy book to read, even with it being young adult. But I did really like that topic, and that's kind of like the book that started getting me into cult books. And I realized that I'm fascinated by people that do things like this and think that it's okay. So I definitely recommend this if you like those messed up cult books, but I don't recommend it if you don't like that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know how to say that, but definitely like kind of look it up and see if there's any trigger warnings for you. The same thing with the Roanoke Girls. I loved this book, gave it 5 stars, but again, it's that forbidden relationship. This girl is like kind of raised by her grandparents, and her grandfather is not that great of a guy, even though he kind of seems like a great guy in the beginning. And it's all about just like, I mean, people can just be manipulated so much in these relationships. So definitely make sure you look up any trigger warnings before you go into it, because it's such a dark book. It is kind of also a thriller, so it's not really a romance, but I wanted to put it in this video just because it does have that forbidden, taboo relationship theme going on in it. Okay, so hi, it's me, it's another day, and I was editing this video and realized that I do actually have 8 books to talk about. I forgot to tell you guys about All the Ugly and Wonderful Things. I guess I was in a rush when I was filming the video the other day, and I didn't have this book written on my list. But All the Ugly and Wonderful Things is one of my all-time favorite books. I read it this year, and I think it is like my all-time favorite book of this year. I think I do like this book so much because the author has a note at the end that says that she kind of wrote this like from her own experience. And this is an age gap romance. It's not as bad as what people think. It's about this young girl who at the age, I think she's like 9 when the story starts. And the guy is in his 20s, but a romance doesn't actually start until she's about 14 or 15. But what happens is like she grew up in a very bad family that does a lot of drugs. They sell a lot of drugs, kind of like white trash type of storyline. And no one is taking care of her or her younger brother. And then this is like a family friend who I also feel like he isn't mentally the age that he is physically. And so he really starts taking care of her more of like a friend or father figure, like not as a creepy, you know, pedophile type of person. But after so many years of them kind of like having that nurturing relationship, it does start turning sexual. And so please be sure that you like read these trigger warnings and don't go into it. I know a lot of people are kind of, you know, turned off by the book. They don't want to read it because they might have like a 14-year-old daughter or something. I don't have any kids, and so I felt like I could appreciate the story that the author was trying to tell because of it being very close to her own life. I do really love like the ending of this book. I think that it was a fantastic book to make yourself think and think about what you would do in that situation, I guess. I don't want to say that the book is right or wrong, but I do really love this one, and I do really like the romance within it since they are older when that happens. But yeah, I definitely had to include that in here. So let's go back to the original video now. Okay, now going back to actual romances, we have The Idea of You by Robin Lee. I loved this book so much. I read it for a romance-a-thon and I was crying my eyes out in the vlog. I'll link it here if you guys want to check it out. But this was such a good book. This is an age gap romance that's completely different than what we normally see. I guess in On the Island, the female was a little bit older, but this one, the female is 39 years old and the male is only, I think, in his early 20s. He's also part of a boy band, and so there's fame into this, and fame comes into play, and it talks about like, you know, how culture in general looks down on older women, and especially when they're dating younger guys, whereas if it's an older guy and a younger woman, they just don't make those same comments. And so I really loved this book. It was emotional, like it was just everything I wanted. And Robin Lee's writing is fantastic. I would love if she wrote another book, but you guys have to check this out. Like, of all of the books that I'm talking about, I think this one is the one that I want people to pick up the most. So definitely check this one out if you haven't. Okay, last but not least, I think I counted wrong. I think this was only 7 books. Oh well. But last but not least, we have Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This one is also an age gap romance, but this is a, I think it's like 38. Why is it always 38? 38-year-old male and an 18-year-old female. But the thing is she has a boyfriend, and this 38-year-old male is her boyfriend's father. So it has more than just one taboo aspect, but this is also the smuttiest book of all of these ones that I've talked about. So this one, it has a lot of sex in it, and I did rate it 5 stars. I did love it. Normally I don't like very smutty books, but I think it's because I was really rooting for the couple. I thought Pike, as like the dad figure, I really liked him. He's one of my favorite characters, and like I thought he was such a great character. And Jordan also, she was like the 18-year-old. I felt that she was actually pretty mature for her age, and so I just really did like this book. And if you like the smut, it has a lot of it in there, so just be prepared. Read this book with a glass of wine or something like that. Have a good time. This is the only Penelope Douglas book that I've read and actually liked, so you guys should definitely pick it up if you haven't. I thought it was great. I hope you guys think it's great too. That's it for this video. That was just my quick forbidden romance books that I have read recently that I really liked and wanted to share with you guys. I know that forbidden romance kind of is, you know, can be something people like or not like, so just go into everything with an open mind and read the trigger warnings. If there's any forbidden romances that you want me to read that I haven't read yet, definitely leave a comment down below so I can check those out, because I'm always looking for more. But that's it, and I will see you guys very soon in another video. Bye everyone.